Hey everyone, so this is going to be the first time I've ever done a video like this, which is a response to another one. So this video is in response to the secret to improving Brawlhalla, so I highly recommend checking that one out first before watching this one if you haven't. This is just going to be a response and reaction and explaining a little bit about the video, as well as a mini Q&A at the end, because I did ask people if they had any persisting questions after the guide to ask them, and I'll answer them in a video like this. So that's what this is going to be. I'm doing it casual commentary live format, so hopefully that isn't annoying if you don't like those types of videos, or maybe you'll find a way to enjoy it regardless. I don't know, maybe you'll enjoy it. So to explain a little bit, I talked about it in the video itself, but essentially that video was 2 months of work to make the video and 1 year in the making in terms of planning and everything like that. So by far my most ambitious project, and again in my opinion the best video I've made to date. Oh, they are gone. So yeah, a lot went into it. It was a lot of script writing, it was a lot of gameplay footage and recording everything, and thank you to everyone who got involved. Essentially a lot of what I did was recording footage on stream, telling people, hey, if you want to be in the video, let me know and you can volunteer to come on stream and we'll 1v1, and that way I can gather footage and everything like that. And that worked out super well, and we played 5 stock best of 3, or not best of 3s, sorry, 5 stock games, so that the footage would last longer and everyone would get more time to play, because a lot of people volunteered and everything like that, so I was super pleased about that. But it was also a hassle because I was having frame rate issues. Maybe I'll just wait for the game to start actually before I start explaining everything. So yeah, I was having frame rate issues with OBS, which is the recording software I use, and it was really getting in the way of things. I would have to re-record things 5, 6, 7 times per game, and given that the video is an hour and 10 minutes long, that got super frustrating and time consuming, and ended up eating a lot of time with that project, and probably wouldn't have taken as long if that didn't happen. But you know, I still got it out. I'm very proud of it, proud of the footage and everything, and I'm glad people seem to enjoy it. Again, the footage is not necessarily the focus. Focus is definitely much more on the writing, but I want it to be at least visually appealing to look at, and something that I could watch back and be like, oh, I didn't just be super lazy. Because the mindset I had was, yeah, I could just record for an hour and 10 minutes and just do that uncut, but I wanted to make it the best product it could be, and I thought that the way to do that was to make it a montage style video. So obviously it took a lot of time to gather an hour and 10 minutes of montage-esque clips, and then on top of that the writing process was very tedious, very enjoyable. I do like writing a lot and I'm proud of what I wrote, but it took a lot of time, and honestly most of the 2 months was script writing and rewriting and making sure that things were okay. Given that it was a guide mostly on mental game, I kind of tricked y'all. I told you it was going to be, you know, a ranking up guide, but more than anything it was a mentality guide, so I guess, you know, get trolled. But I wanted to be very careful with what I said. I did research. I made sure that I wasn't saying things that were false, because yeah, I don't want to spread misinformation about like mental you know, mindset things, psychology things in a video that's specifically focused on that. I wanted to spread information that was correct, so I spent a lot of time and I worried a lot about the language I used to make sure it couldn't be misinterpreted in harmful ways and stuff like that. So if you notice, if you take a look back, I mean now if you watch it back you'll probably notice this, a lot of the time when I say or I recommend different things, different techniques or different strategies and different mindsets, I use the word try more than the word do. And I made sure to do that. That was a very intentional decision, because I want to make it more open-ended, because when we're talking about mental game and strategy and the way that our minds work, it's not one answer. You know, it's not one size fits all. Everyone is a little bit different, and so I wanted to emphasize that by talking about trying things and not just do this and this will happen. You know, do X and Y will happen, because that's not really how things work. So that's one example that you can probably piece together if you watch the video back. I also wanted to make it kind of an event, so I did something that I hadn't done before, and when it released I watched it live on stream with kind of director's DVD commentary. We watched it live with chat, and that was a super huge success. People seemed to love it. They asked for the replay and the VOD and everything so they wouldn't miss it, and I may do that again if I end up releasing another huge project like that. Again, huge success on that one. If you did see it, about 50% of people that saw the guide, which by the way, I should say this right off the bat, is the support on the guide is insane. Kind of crazy, mind-boggling, but yeah, I don't want to get sidetracked. I'll talk about that more later. Yeah, so about 50% of people that saw the guide, oh, I wanted to get a wall combo. You saw the idea at the very least. Also saw the trailer, so that trailer, if you didn't see it, there's a link on my channel somewhere. I mean, someone in the comments probably has it. It's unlisted now, because I did say, you know, this video will disappear in 24 hours, but a lot of people liked it, so rather than just deleting it, I just unlisted it, so it's a little hard to find, but Someone's probably got a link. Anyway, that trailer, that was a nightmare to edit. Oh my. So I've never made a trailer like that before. A trailer for a video. You know, it's a little egotistical maybe if you look at it, but I really just wanted to ensure that people knew that it was coming and were excited for it and were hyped, because I spent 2 months on this guide. It would really suck if nobody watched it, you know, so that's why I made that trailer. That was a nightmare to edit. That took an entire day itself. It's 40 seconds long, so that was, yeah, that was literally an entire day. And by entire day, I'm not talking like a morning. I mean, I do it when I wake up, and then I eat, and then I edit more, and then I walk outside, and then I eat, and then I edit more. It was that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into all the details of why it was such a nightmare, but essentially something that I have never seen before in editing software, nor one of my friends who's a computer expert has ever seen before, happened, where all of the assets and the files I made just disappeared. And it wasn't even like they got deleted, like they weren't in recycle bin or anything. They literally just disappeared, and the only thing that existed from it were shortcuts. It was kind of crazy. I don't know what happened, and neither, again, does my computer friend expert, so that was kind of crazy. But I was still able to get it out. It was when I was almost done with it, so thankfully I didn't lose all the progress in the work that I did. I did lose some, admittedly, but not everything, so that was good. But yeah, the trailer went out. The next day, the video was released, and the response I got was just phenomenal. Like, the number of positive comments. So just to give some like context, in the first hour of that video's release, the number of comments I got was like exponentially more than most videos get during their entire lifetime. It was crazy, and like, I just can't thank everyone enough. I can't respond to everyone, but know that if you've left a positive comment, I have seen it. There's a lot of people that were writing things like, I know you probably won't see this. Don't worry, I have seen it, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad it was helpful, really, because I'm very proud of the video. I think it's my best video for sure, and everyone that watched it and left supportive comments and told me how much it helped, that really means a lot. That makes it all worth it, 100%, you know, 1,000 times over. That makes it worth it. I'm glad I was able to put it out. I did see some comments that were kind of interesting about like, wow, he worked on this for 2 months and releases it for free. Like, I do appreciate the sentiment and the energy that comment is coming from, but I mean, I'm also getting stuff out of it. Like, I think it's very fulfilling to make a guide like that and to make videos. I mean, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. So writing that script, editing the footage, gathering the footage, making the thumbnail, you know, thinking up a title that was catchy enough but also accurate, you know, those kinds of things I really enjoy. And the combination of it all and seeing it come to fruition in one final project, or one final product, I should say, is extremely fulfilling. And then the response I get is just so much like bonus added on top of that it's just an amazing feeling. So don't worry, I walked into a bomb because I tried to pick it up, but I picked up the weapon spawn instead. That was embarrassing, but don't pay attention to that. It was just super fulfilling. But also, on the flip side, I saw the other side of those comments, which were like, he's getting money out of it anyway. So, you know, yeah, it's good he made a guide, but he's like, most of the time is just doing it for money. And to that, I do have a reply as well, which is that in 2 months, I could have unironically made 60 videos. 60 videos. And they all be monetized, and all be like 20 minutes long, and instead I made one. Not to say that making 60 videos is a bad thing, or that I won't make those like 60 videos at some time in the future. It's just, yeah, if we're really talking economically speaking, that was not the best decision. But if we're talking creatively speaking, community speaking, like everything else, it was the right decision. I wanted to make the video, so that's why I made the video. And I appreciate the response. But yeah, that's like my little spiel on it. That's a little piece behind the scenes. If people want to see my project details, people were asking for it on stream. I guess I could show those, but I don't think it's really that interesting. I mean, it's just edited footage with music and stuff, and voiceover. Also, the number of cuts I had to make in the voiceover, oh, that's a whole nother story. That voiceover, I'm such like a, I mean, you can tell already by this commentary, I guess, although to be fair, I'm way more put together and coherent in this video than I am in most, but I'm also not dodging that for some reason. I'm not really paying attention to the gameplay though, as I'm sure you're aware. yeah, I'm just all over the place. So the number of things I had to cut because I just started going on tangents. Like there was a part in the video where I talk about Harley Davidson motorcycles. There's a part in the video where I talk about I pinched myself with a clothes hanger. Like those I left in because I thought they were stupid enough to leave in, but the number of things like that I cut out, like you don't even know. It's kind of sad, but also hilarious in its own way. I don't have it saved. Maybe I should have saved it. That would have been kind of fun, I guess, to edit that together. Just like outtakes, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, on to questions now. I mean, after this match, I gotta pull them up. So I asked people questions on, or I asked people if they had any questions on the YouTube community tab and on Twitter and in the Discord. About persisting questions after the guide. I will say I only have like 2 from YouTube that I picked out because I'm gonna be real with you guys. Those YouTube community post comments you left, not the best. You know, I'm gonna be real, not the best. But you know, you tried. Like this is one of them. This was like the highest upvoted one. So yeah, most of them are probably from the Discord because you know. If you asked a question on the YouTube community tab though, if I didn't pick it, it's probably either because someone also already asked it in the Discord or something, or maybe, I don't know. There's so many questions, and again, I'm very thankful that people wanted to ask questions and wanted to know more and stuff like that, so I appreciate you. I appreciate you allowing me to use you for content, but if I didn't get to, I apologize. There were a lot of people that asked, so I'm sorry. But with that said, let's get to it. Never mind. I thought that would be perfectly timed, but they recovered out of the way. Okay, now let's get to it. So Maxwell XD asked the question, which is, how can I brush off my negative emotions in ranked? And I think this is a really good question, because I think the question itself is kind of the problem, if that makes sense. I think the way that... this is just my opinion, by the way. I should preface this. This is not like the guide. I'm going to be probably less methodical with the things that I say, but I'll still try to be careful to not say something wrong or that could be perceived as harmful or anything like that. But yeah, I think the problem that you're having is likely in the question itself, which is that you're trying to brush off your negative emotions. And so it's well understood that emotions and the way that emotions work is that in suppressing them and brushing them off and ignoring them, they actually have more control over you. And really the way to control your emotions is, rather than to try and brush them away, to accept them for where they are and then work from there. Because once you acknowledge it and once you recognize it, what that does, scientifically speaking, is activate a higher processing part of your brain, like a more evolved, complicated part of your brain that regulates controlled thought, and starts deactivating, or the things that control emotion are less in control. So acknowledging that that is what you're experiencing and you do have those negative emotions is the first step, and brushing them off is actually the thing that's going to make the problem worse. So if you experience, let's say, a lot of anger, trying to force down your anger will make the anger more prevalent the next time. Is essentially what I'm saying. So for you, I'd recommend, I mean, everyone's situation is going to be different. So learning strategies once you recognize that anger to try and calm yourself down could be valuable, or using that anger and using the positives of that anger, because anger can have positives. It can make you more willing to take risks, which in some situations could be super useful. So learning to take the positives of it and recognize where it's dragging you down is important. And once you're able to recognize it, looking up strategies and exploring things and trying things out for yourself is where to go. Because there's going to be no right answer. There's no one answer for everyone. It's just all about how you work, and everyone works different and everyone's a unique individual. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. Maybe it's not, but a lot of the answers I'm gonna give are probably pretty vague because a lot of the questions are a little vague, or it's hard to be specific when it's an individual question, if that makes sense. Actually, that doesn't make sense. It's hard to be specific when the question is general, or when I don't know the individual person. That makes more sense. DecoPro38 says, the guide is amazing, but the problem is to start doing all those small things. It's very difficult for me to apply. I would love to know how to not just think about it, but how to do it. And thankfully, this is one of the most common comments, so I picked it out. But in the replies, okay, I'm looking at my second monitor to read the question, and I am dying. Hold on. NLG Hydra responds with exactly what I would say, which is, I think the issue that you're running into. Okay, I'm gonna have to make a comeback here, but that's totally fine. You know, we've been there before. which is that, like I said at the beginning, the first section of the video is it's all about individual small steps and doing one thing at a time. Because yeah, you're right, looking at an hour and 10-minute long guide and thinking I need to do all those things is super overwhelming, and you literally can't do all of those things at once. It's impossible. So yeah, start with one small objective, make that your only focus until you get it down. Hopefully don't teleport, because that is sad, and and move on to the next game. Oh god. Oh, I am still lagging. It's funny, a lot of the questions I got was like how to mentally handle lag. Yeah, my internet at the moment is going through some hard times, so I may have to resume recording at another point, but I'll answer the... Oh, back to 4 bars. Okay, we're good, we're good, we're good. I mean, I think a lot of accepting lag is acknowledging that it's something out of your control. Control is something I talk a lot about in that video. So if you take what I say about... So here's the secret about this video, the secret about the secret to improving. Most of what I say, the reason why I say it, is I only use Brawlhalla as an example, and it can be applied to many other things. This is something a lot of people commented on in the comment section, that this can be applied to like life, but I just use Brawlhalla as an example, and that's pretty much the goal of what the guide was to make it a mentality guide that you can apply to life, but using Brawlhalla as an example. Oh, I am lagging again. Alright, I restarted. Hopefully it's better now. I guess we'll just find out. But yeah, essentially what I was saying is take what I said about uncontrollability and recognizing where things are in your control and aren't in your control, apply that to lag, and that would pretty much be my response. But let's move on. This is gonna be a super long video, and there's a lot of questions, so I don't want this to be super long. So let's move on to the next one, which is Polimonto asks how, essentially, this is going to be a long question, so I'll summarize, how I talk a lot about these different problems, but I don't really tell you how to fix them, and how long do you go for when you say, oh, this is one of my specific issues, like how long do I tell myself, don't mash jump every time you get hit, and like when can I know if I've fixed a habit and everything like that. So to address your first question, which is about not giving you the perfect solution, and you're entirely right, I didn't. And the reason why I didn't do it, I mean, I kind of explained it in the beginning of this video, but it's about, you know, it's a very general guide, and the thing about these kinds of mental games and stuff is that it's very specific person to person. So in order to make a general guide, I kind of have to outline things very generally. And the other thing is that because it's about mental game, it's kind of a specific thing that you, unfortunately, I do talk about this in the guide, but unfortunately I can't really do that much. Like I can only, the analogy I used was like a doorway. Like I can only be the person to show you that maybe there's a door here, but all the work of walking through it and, you know, maybe lock picking it and everything for extending the analogy and how difficult it is to walk through that door is something that you have to figure out and try and do for yourself. So I explained some tools to use and things to think about, but actually doing it, unfortunately, is not something I can really push you over the edge and help you with. Or fortunately, I think it's pretty cool that people can, you know, help themselves and do stuff like that. To your second question, where how do you know when you truly have fixed your problem, like what's to say you won't slip up in a week again and fail to regulate your behavior and all that, my answer to that is probably not going to be very satisfying as well, because it's something that you're just going to have to figure out. You're just going to have to try and see, because I literally cannot give you the answer. That's what's important, is that because I'm not you, and because like I'm not familiar with everything, your situation and how you learn things and how you handle things, like I'm not going to be able to answer that, and like the only person I can really ultimately answer that for is myself. So like what's to say that you won't go back to your bad habits in a week? Like you might. And if that's the case, well, at the very least you learned how to stop yourself from doing those bad habits at some point, and so you can try it again and keep trying until suddenly they're not bad habits anymore, they're intentional things that you're doing, or unintentional intentional things that you're not doing. As for like how long will it be until you like know that it's not no longer something you need to practice, well, as long as it's something that you don't need to practice anymore. It's like the answer is kind of in the question itself, if that makes sense. Like as long as it's something that you need to think about and you need to focus on, then that's a sign that it's something to practice. And to make sure that it will stick like forever, well, a lot of the time automatic habits are something that take a lot of time to practice and take a lot of time to unwind. So there may be no answer to it. It may be something you always need to work on, but you can get better at it, and that's what's important. Because again, like I know this answer may be not the most satisfactory, and I'm not the most coherent either, because I am kind of just in the middle of a video game right now and not not necessarily writing anything down, but yeah, you just won't know until you try. And I think a lot of the time this fear of not knowing, and this is a big point in the video, is why we don't try. But the thing is that it's either you try and you may fail, or you don't try and you always fail. But the reason why we prefer to not try is because we know what's going to happen if we don't try. Like we're comfortable with that, we're familiar with it, but we don't like the uncertainty of maybe trying and maybe like not following through, or maybe not failing, or maybe not getting the desired result we want. And so like it's much more comfortable to be with like the uncomfortable that we know than the potential good. Like I probably confused people by saying uncomfortable. Let me rephrase it. We tend to prefer the known bad to the potential good. So even if something is not your desired result or where you want to be at in the moment, we tend to stick with that as opposed to trying something new and just venturing off into the unknown, because I really don't know. In a week you may just fall back in your bad habits, or you may not. But don't let that stop you from just trying to do it, you know? So hopefully that helps at all. It probably doesn't, but it's hard to answer a question like that because it's so individually focused. Yeah, let me alt-tab here so I can click the next question. Oh, the next question's from WestFX. A lot of people asked me that. They were like, thanks for making a guide, but we got to check up on you. You know, how are you doing? I'm doing all right. I mean, again, when the guide was released, I'm amazed and floored by the positive reception of it. So, you know, don't worry about me. I spent a lot of time on it, but making videos is still something that I love. Trust that if I start getting burnt out, I'll just stop. I won't force myself. I definitely do look after my health first before videos and everything like that, so I'm not going super overboard yet. But thanks for checking in, everyone that asked that. That was a pretty common question. Okay, Dango Art asks, I would like to know your thought process behind making adjustments and how you decide in general what a mistake is and what it isn't. I feel like I'm struggling with identifying mistakes in the first place. Okay, I'm glad I didn't die while looking at my other screen. That would have been bad. That's a good question. That's a great question. I don't know why I just messed up my words while saying that. You can imagine why the script took me a long time to read out, right? Now it's starting to make sense. Yeah, that's a good question. So, a mistake to me is something that causes me to be uncomfortable, causes me to lose a match, or is something that, even though I'm winning a match, is something that I feel like is holding me back. And a good example is if you're always dodging the same direction, if your movement is imprecise and you're always like chase dodging like super far or dashing off the map like I just did, or like doing something like this where the opponent isn't even near you but you always just go super deep and not really putting on pressure, like something that holds you back from winning a match. And the most obvious example of it is something that makes you get hit, like improper dodges or improper movement or bad timing on your punishes, but some of them are less obvious, and I think as you start to practice analysis more and more, those things will start to be more obvious. But again, it's an individual problem. Everyone's mistakes are kind of individually focused, so it'll be an individual solution. I don't know why I just saved the Kaya. I'm kind of not paying attention. Zafitra asks, how do you mentally recover from losing half your games on lag? It's kind of interesting. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but yeah, think about, like, did you do the best you could in that match? And like, if the answer is yes, then and the lag is really the thing holding you back, then that really just sucks. And unfortunately, you don't really have any control over it, so you can't do anything about it. But yeah. In terms of mentally recovering, I think that helps to recognize that it was out of your control and there's literally nothing you could do about it. But yeah, it's just rough. It sucks to lose because you're lagging. So in those situations when you're lagging a lot, I think if your mindset is focused on improving, recognize where lag held you back and where it didn't. Like, okay, maybe lag is the reason why you lost the match, but like maybe you lagged off the map in red in your last stock, but then like you were red in your last stock, so thinking about like why you're in that position to begin with and trying to help with those kinds of things, that can be a way to, I guess, readjust your mind to focus not on the lag but on the other things that you could have done. Okay, alt tab, next question, don't kill me please. How do I improve or deal with losses when the reason I lose is because of character matchup? The meta is just crapping on me, and as a gauntlet main, I just get stomped by the other higher tier weapons. Do you recommend changing my mains, or is there something else? So, in my opinion, Brawlhalla is an extremely well-balanced game when compared to other things. So when we talk about meta and when we talk about balance and tier lists, in other games, some metas, like a comparable thing would be like a certain champion in a MOBA, would literally be unplayable, but Brawlhalla's not like that. Every legend every weapon at all times is viable and can win a tournament, and like at the very least can get top 8 at a major tournament. So I don't think necessarily that weapons or legends are the things holding you back, but I do think that a big mental block is people putting so much emphasis on matchups being the reason why they can't win something, and I think that is definitely something that you can take a look at, because maybe you do feel completely helpless in a matchup, and maybe it would be worth it to switch legends. I don't know, like I don't know everyone's individual situation, but a lot of the time I see people using matchups as a reason for them losing, and in reality they could be doing more to try and learn the matchup, but because they like in their mind it's so dead set that it's unwinnable that they don't take the extra steps to make the effort to try and improve at the matchup. So I would say in your general question, the general answer I would give is no, I don't think switching a legend is necessary to win matchups, but that's, I guess, ultimately up to you to decide. That would be my answer. Alright, I'm gonna go back on stage so I don't die when I alt tab. Alright, on to the Discord questions. Fernando asks, how long do you think it is necessary to start confronting stress in ranked and start performing your best? And I think I can give a pretty quick answer to this. I'm guessing by everything I've said in this Q&A so far, you can probably guess the answer, which is I don't know. It all depends on you. And I know that's not satisfying, and having a certain answer is much more, what's the word? Like, you're probably looking for just a strict certain answer, like this many hours, this amount of time. But the key about a lot of what I talk about in the guide is accepting that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to improving, and this is one of those things where I don't know how long it'll take, but I'm sure that if you give it a shot, you will see at least some kind of difference. That's my hope at the very least. So yeah, there's that question. Let me not die again. Actually, let me die so I can alt tab and look at the question. Thank you for cannonballing. Oh, this is a long one. Okay. Regarding rank in elo, I don't think I'm egotistical when it comes to rank. I know I won't put in the time needed to get out of gold. I'm fluctuating between 1280 and 1330 elo. But I watched your guide, and if I learned anything, it's that I've made my 2 achievable goals. All right, nice. Well, first off, that's sick. I'm proud of you. Thankfully, I died so I can read. Be consistent with blasters down like dare and practice directional dodges. So that's cool that you have specific goals. I'm glad that you're able to notice those and achieve them. First off, great work. My questions are, is this ego, and what exercises and practice methods could I use to make my inputs more accurate? Because the reason why I struggle is because I know and I notice that I'm holding my fingers for too long. So the thing about ego and recognizing ego, a lot of people ask me questions about how do I know if this is ego or if it's just something else. I think the key is to think about when you're comparing yourself to other people, because that's when you have a compulsion to do it. Because if you think, oh, I'm worse than this player after losing, that's like a great window for your ego to creep up and tell yourself, no, you're not worse than them. You didn't lose that game. They're just spammers. So recognize when you start making comparisons to other people and degrading either you or them because of your relative position. So to answer that question, like, no, I don't think what you're talking about is ego at all, because it just sounds like you're identifying things you struggle with and goals to achieve, and like progress you've made, and like, I don't know, those are just tangible steps. So there you go, I suppose. I don't know if that helps, but a lot of people did ask questions about ego, so I think that's a place to start. It does get a little bit more complex. It's not like, because obviously not all comparisons are bad, and I guess the term I should use is more like value-based comparisons, because like comparing yourself to other players is totally fine. You can look at things that other people are doing and different techniques and everything, but once you start placing value on yourself and your identity and everyone else based on those comparisons, that's when it can start to bring you down. So hopefully that helps. As for your question about improving mechanical ability, that's something that you can build up over time in training mode, and recognize that training mode is not a real game, and you're probably gonna, even if you can do something in training mode, you're probably gonna struggle to do it in a real game, but that's totally fine. That's part of the process, and best of luck. Thank you for the question, Equimage. Alright, now Natless Fizuk. You got a custom name, so I'm not entirely sure. But they ask, was there any fear or a moment of realization when your channel, and by extension influence, was getting bigger at any point where you didn't think you would know what to do if you became one of the faces of the community? Yeah, this is something I think about all the time, about the influence I have, because I think it would be naive to assume that I don't have any influence or any power. As much as I'd want to believe that everyone can, I don't know, everyone is equal standing. That's not necessarily the case with the value system in our community, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's just something I think about a lot. So yeah, to answer your question, I do think about that. And part of the reason why I was very careful with the words I used in the guide, like I explained earlier, was because of concerns about that, about saying certain things that may make people feel worse about themselves, about their value, and everything like that. So yeah, it's something I think about a lot, and thank you for the question. It's a pretty good question. Oh, that weapon throw combo. Actually, one thing I do want to say before moving on to the next question is that I think I can't really understand the positive influence that I have, nor can I really understand the negative influence that I may have. Like, I'll never be able to fully see either of those, but with the platform that I do have, I kind of just want to be me, and the person I am tends to prefer, like, having positivity, if that makes sense. It's not really, I don't know. I want to be... It's not even like I want to be a good face in the community. I just kind of want to be me, and whatever happens from that happens. And if people get happier when they watch my videos, and if they enjoy what I do, then that's like fantastic. That's great. I'm getting destroyed this game, and I'm really happy about that. But I don't necessarily I don't think of myself as a face of the community. I just think of myself as a community member who happens to make videos. That's all. So yeah, on to the next question from Pierre, who says, how to mentally reset when your enemy's playstyle stresses you out. Yeah, this is something that is super common. Like, when people are very evasive and very passive, it can be super stressful and really get on your nerves. Like, how do you mentally reset when that happens? And again, like all of the questions that comes to mental game, the answer is going to be individually focused, like individually on you. I'm not going to have that answer for you. Some techniques you can try is to recognize when you're starting to why you're starting to get frustrated. Like, understand, why is this something that annoys you? Is it because them playing passive, you interpret that as being disrespectful to you? Because that's what a lot of people do. Without realizing it. Like, when people play passive, they're like, oh, this player's just disrespecting me, and that's why they get mad, less so than the fact that they can't hit them. And then every time they can't hit them, it makes that feeling worse. So yeah, understanding why you get frustrated, I think, is a good place to start, and from there it's going to be individual problems. I mean, you can do research on things like how to calm down when things stress you out, you know, deep breaths, everything like that, but again, I know it's not a satisfying answer, but it's going to be up to you. Next question. Oh my, this is a long one. Okay. Let me get enough of a damage lead that I don't feel like I'm I'm just throwing the game. Though I guess it doesn't really matter that much. What is the absolute best way to win in neutral against opponents of varying playstyles? There is no absolute best way to neutral. Neutral is beautiful because it's ever changing and ever evolving. In your opinion, is a passive playstyle as rewarding as aggressive? To me, I get a lot more enjoyment playing super aggressive because I like forcing options in people's faces and making them pick between different things. But I mean, if you enjoy passive playstyle, there's nothing wrong with that. You enjoy whatever you enjoy. And if other people try to bring you down for that, that says more about them than it does about you. What can you learn from someone with passive gameplay other than patience? You can learn a lot of things. You can learn about movement. You can learn about prediction. A lot of the time, like, passive gameplay shouldn't necessarily work against good approaches because good approaches are unreactable. So if someone is passive and they're countering your approaches, it's because they're predicting you, so you can learn about your personal timings and everything like that. You can learn a lot. Do you think the barrier from poor mental game is stronger than a barrier from a lack of game sense or lack of fundamental skill? It's not really a either or thing. I think those things go hand in hand. So like fundamental skill, mechanical skill, those are all things that have a lot of weight in mental game. Like, building up mechanical skill is something that takes patience and takes dedication and time. So, and those are all things that go hand in hand with mental game. So I don't think it's an either or. Do you gain more from winning or losing, or does it come down to how you use the information that you get from that win and loss? I think it comes down to the information you get. Yeah, it's not a binary gain more, it's all about the individual situation. So hopefully that answers your questions. Alright, Gamer477 asks, how do I deal with being intimidated by an opponent when I see their frame before the game even starts, indicating they are a higher rank than me? It affects my playstyle and I start to be more passive. That's a great question, and I think it perfectly like ties into the guide, because, oh, okay. Basically, I think a lot of this is about your expectations about the match. Because they have a certain rank, you expect them to be a certain a type of player. You expect them to be better than you. You expect yourself to lose, or all these different things. And I think they really lie in expectations. And so to answer that, I refer you to the 4th section of the video where I talk about managing expectations and recognizing where you have them and trying to reduce them. Actually, I think that's the 5th section. Well, it's kind of both because it ties into self-worth. But yeah, I think if you're able to remove the expectations of the match and just focus on playing against another player, another human being, and recognize that you're also a human being, then I think it can make that anxiety go down. Pear asks another question about starting to play bad because I don't want to annoy my enemy, and then I play bad for the rest of the day. Is this a common problem? I feel like it is a common problem, and I think a big reason for it is because of the stigma of playing passive or playing annoying. Playing annoying weapons, for example, some people don't want to play Lance because they're afraid of the bad press or bad reception they'll get if they do play Lance and everything like that. I think it's a valid problem for sure. But I also think I think it's an unfortunate valid problem because people will give you like trouble for playing passive even if you just want to do that, or even if you want to play annoying or play a certain weapon. But I'm just gonna say what I said before, where it's like if it's something you want to do and others are giving you a hard time about it, like that's not on you. It's not your responsibility to please them. You're just trying to have fun playing a video game, and if they're not having a good time, it's likely because you're winning. Or maybe you're doing something they don't like, but it's just in-game. It's not like you're saying anything out of game that's like disrespectful to them. You're just playing within the rules of the game. I think that's perfectly fine. Yummy Yam asks thoughts on playing in a different style or what people want to play against. And this is the reason why I included these back to back, is because this is a related question. It's essentially asking, if I remember correctly, about fitting a kind of mold, about being a certain player that other players want you to be, so that they won't like not play with you. And unfortunately, this is kind of something that happens a lot in fighting games, because I'm going to feel kind of maybe condescending saying this, but it's like the Scrub Lord's Prayer, which is essentially this set of rules that like a scrub subscribes to, which is like, if you're doing something I don't like, it's not fair, and everything like that, all those rules that they have decided for themselves. And that's kind of what it is. It's not rules of the game, it's rules that they have created that don't actually exist and aren't real. So if someone isn't having fun playing with you, that's valid. Like, they don't need to have fun. But then at the same time, you don't need to fit their mold of what they want in order for you to have a good time or for you to improve. Because if you want to improve a passive playstyle, then go for it. It's not like, I don't know. This may sound rude, but it's really not their fault that you're winning, if that makes sense. Like, you're just playing the game. So yeah, if your friends are like that, that is unfortunate, but I think that's also laid in ego, and I think that's going to be the thing that really holds them back if they want to get better, I guess is the way I'll answer that question. I don't know if that helps at all. I'm feeling super tired, so I feel like my answers, I'm just going to like speedrun these, so I won't, but yeah. Rats asks, is there anything specific to tournaments that that someone can do to reduce their anxiety? Jeez, that was so hard to say. I actually said Rats asks without even messing it up, at least the 3rd time. You didn't hear the first 2 times though, because I cut those out. But yeah, so tournament anxiety inevitably will likely be worse than ranked anxiety because the stakes are higher. If you remember what I talked about with consequence, higher consequence, the greater the chance the anxiety will come out. And that's kind of the case. Tournaments have higher stakes than ranked inherently. They have money, they have reputation. Ranked, like, people don't really care about ranked as much as they care about tournament results in terms of like perception of skill and everything like that. So yeah, tournaments will definitely produce more anxiety, but I think the nature of the beast that is anxiety is the same regardless of like, okay, obviously not all anxiety. I'm just talking about like this kind of anxiety. And I'm not a doctor, by the way. I should probably say that. This is not like medical information. It'll be like the techniques or whatever you use to reduce ranked anxiety, it'll be the same for tournament anxiety. It'll just be a lot harder, and it'll probably take a lot more work. But like what I would say, like if I were to make a video on tournament anxiety, it would be the exact same video. You just replace the word ranked with tournament, and that's the video. Che2pco or Che2cpo asks, how can I be more conscious of throwing out hits and not getting punished for it? Yeah, this is a common question I also saw on the YouTube community tab. So this is all about habits, being aware of your automatic habits, and being present in the moment. Because throwing out hits automatically is a very easy thing to go on autopilot and do. So you just have to like go into a match and focus your entire being on not throwing out hits all the time. And it's gonna be difficult, but as you do it more, it's gonna get easier. And that's kind of how these things work. So yeah, best of luck with that. I don't want to alt tab at the moment because the game's almost over. I don't want to just read a new question right off the bat and then cut it off immediately. Although maybe the game isn't actually almost over and I'm just trolling. I'm just trying to mash heavy attacks so I get the kill now. I want this game to end because then I can go to the next question. And I'm not actually ending it. So I probably should have read it by now. But, you know, that's fine. Goodbye. Okay, last two questions here. First one from Tim's. With the turtle with the Tims. What's your opinion on statements like top level Brawlhalla play devolves into spamming safe moves like Lance Nair and Blaster's Dare, which BMG has done nothing to address other than nerfing said move's damage? I don't know. I actually haven't heard this before, but it's not entirely wrong, but it's also not entirely right. I don't think it's true that top level play revolves around spamming only safe moves, but I think it's inevitable that top level play will see a lot more spamming of safe moves than lower level play because it's just less risk. But yeah, I think strong moves could use some additional tweaks that aren't necessarily just damage, but I don't think it's like, I don't know, I'm not like super doomer about it. And your second question, how would one keep mental stable when playing against someone overly dependent on certain moves, upon said moves, and they play kind of cheaply? So I think recognizing that the very idea, this is kind of relating to the first question, which is where the solution is, or where the problem is kind of in the question, where I think saying things are just cheap techniques is itself the mental block. It's not the player, it's the way you look at it. Because I think that has an underlying assumption that what you're doing is more complicated and like better than what they're doing and they shouldn't be winning. And that is an expectation. That's also ego. And what I talk about with ego and recognizing that even if they're just doing one thing, it's a valid technique because it's working against you. And so instead of focusing all your energy on the fact that it's cheap, redirect that energy to focus on how to combat whatever they're doing. I think that'll help. Anyway, last question here from Captain Sparrow, who says, especially after the guide, you're a person that gets a lot of praise in the form of comments, DMs, tweets, etc. that mostly look the same. I feel after a certain point it won't feel as good and even becomes annoying to get spammed by these messages. Do you still genuinely like the praise, or do you feel forced to react nicely? This is a very interesting question. I feel like I probably won't be able to fully answer it in this game, so maybe I'll just cut ahead. Okay, well I don't even need to cut now. Nice. So there's kind of an axis of comments. This is the way I like to look at it. There's like mindless positive and mindless negative comments, which are kind of just like, I like this or I hate this, where it doesn't really tell you anything. So taking a lot away from it or putting a lot of stake in those comments doesn't really make that much sense to me, because they're not really something that it doesn't really give you that valuable information. But I think when people leave positive comments that like explains something about why they enjoyed it or tells me about their story or something like that, I feel very warm about that. I feel like I explained in the beginning of this video, like people describing how the video helped them and the different things they've been trying out and how they're motivated. Those kinds of stuff, like no matter how many of those I'll get, it'll make me feel good. The thing about comments though, and I'm sure if you've watched other like channels, you've heard this before, which is that you can read 1,000 positive and 1 negative, and the one you're gonna think about is the negative one. So in terms of like reception and all that, like the amount of support I get is kind of mind-boggling, and it's very heartwarming, and I appreciate it a lot. And I don't want people to feel obligated to leave those kinds of comments either, so you know, no need. I do appreciate you going out of the way, but I also have to recognize that even if there's like a lot of negative comments, for example, the vast majority of people that watch the video don't even comment. Like, if a video has however many, like 90,000 views and 1,000 comments, that is like, you can just do the math. That is a minority of people leaving the comment. So I think most people that watch, it's like a silent majority of people that enjoy, and sometimes it's hard to remember that, but people that go beyond that and leave positive comments, it's definitely encouraging, but it's not needed, so don't feel any pressure if you do. But yeah, this was a long video, my voice is getting dry. Hopefully I answered your question or helped a little bit. I feel like a lot of the answers I gave were pretty vague, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.